time, if you please stand and join us for a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. You'll join the board. Pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That's twice.
Thank you. First item of business is to approve the minutes of the meetings held on November 7th and November 15th, 2022.
Mr. President, I move that we approve the minutes for the meetings held on November the 7th and November the 15th, 2022.
Okay, I have a motion by Dr. Penix to accept the minutes. Do I have a second? Second. Okay. We'll give the second to Mr. Berry. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, next on the agenda, we have the recognition of the first place winners for the county and regional literature fair.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Josie Groves. I would like to thank everyone for coming out tonight to help us recognize some of Nicholas County's finest students. The students who were invited tonight all won first place at their school level literature fairs, thus granting them the opportunity to participate at the county level in the Nicholas County Literature Fair. The representatives here tonight also won first place at the county level literature fair and thereby were invited to the regional literature fair. Many of our student representatives here ultimately went home with first, second, third place, and best of show ribbons from the regional fair as well. So first off, round of applause. In total, at the county level fair this year, there were 129 projects displayed and presented by 166 Nicholas County students. Of those 129 projects, only 48 that were presented by the students in attendance tonight were advancing to the regional literature fair. So there were a ton of projects, and these kids really did well, represented themselves and their schools and the county well, and moved on to regionals. Because we have, or at this time, I'd like to introduce the students who presented those winning projects and represented themselves so well. Because we have so many students to get through tonight, I'll be announcing student names in small groups at a time, about 8 to 10 or so that they can get their picture taken as a group with Dr. Teacher and the board members. After those students have been recognized up here and you've gotten your picture, I ask for them to be seated. We'll call another group. Once everyone's gone through, then you're free to leave the meeting, or you can remain if you would like. In our first group of students, we have some county first place winners: Avery Mullins, Mackenzie Berry, Isla Huger, Lakin Osborne, Jacob Morriston, Sephora Bartlett, Kaylin Williams, Connor Gibson, Jaden Dare, and Brianna Jarvis. Congratulations, Brianna. Okay. Are we close enough?
Okay. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Congratulations, guys. Okay, our next group, Ruthie Harless, Willis. Riley Sevy. Lily King.
Congratulations, Lily.
Hallie Kreitz. Bobby Eckel. Austin Altizer. Allison Odell. Lillian Odell. Candace Crockett. Paige Hall. Jaslyn Williams. And Abigail Thomas.
Okay. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Oh, yes. Do you mind standing up again and showing us your t-shirt?
Show the shirt here.
This is the shirt that all of our county level winners got, that they got to wear to regional to represent the county.
All right.
And those were gifted to us from the West Virginia Reading Association. Next, we have quite a few kids here from this group. Chloe Cox. Mallory Willis. Evan Nutter. Emma Young.
Congratulations.
Maggie McClung.
Congratulations.
Joel Eads. Connor Young. Hunter McClung. One thing I would like to point out before we do our picture, all of the students who are up here right now won first place at county and first place at regional.
All right. We're going to get you all in here. Okay, you ready? 1, 2, 3.
Okay, our next group is going to be a big one because I think not many of these kids are here. Kenzie Williams. Lauren Conley. Brooklyn Giles. Aiden Gragg. Elizabeth Underwood. Gretchen McMillian. Charlie Braun. Avery Spencer. Carter Kaufman. Abram Owens. Jace Jones. Haven Frame. Brooklyn Hinkle. Isaac McKinney. Abraham Robinson. Haley Kuhn. Alexis Kuhn. Haley Brown. Aubrey Moose. Regan Hypes. Lexi Boggs. Mia Morriston.
Oh, I gave the wrong one. That's me then.
I think those two are mixed up.
They are. Lexi. Handed you the wrong one. I got too excited.
Is that right now, girls?
and Chastity Barnett.
Okay, what was, Drew, scoot down just this way, so come over this way, so we center it up, okay?
You know you have to scoot down because your superintendent's so short. You guys are taller than I am.
I just want the picture to be balanced. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3.
And these students were all also first place at regional like the last group. The next group I'm going to call won county first place, regional first place, and county best of show. Gianna LaRose, Emma DeMoss, Garrett Bragg, and Lucas Hensley. Picture him.
Next, 1, 2, 3.
The next group had county first place, regional first place, and regional best of show. Avery Walton, Casey Willis, McKenna Braun, Izzy Whitney, Brody Jones, and Hudson Leslie.
Hudson, go. Everybody beside her.
Okay. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, hang on. I think Mom's working. Take one.
The last group that I have to announce these students won county first place, county best of show, regional first place, and regional best of show. Natalie LaRose, Alexia Cag, and Grace Gano.
Congratulations, everybody.
Okay, that brings us to number 4, discussion items. Presentation by Nicholas County Commission by Craig Chapman, Commissioners Craig Chapman and Commissioner Garrett Cole about the PLIT program.
My battery's died, so
Good evening. How's everybody doing? We're here to talk about a new pilot program we're doing, and that stands for payment in lieu of taxes. Some of y'all remember I brought one to you about a year and a half ago on Stonerise nursing home, which we've not completed that because the building's just now being completed. I'm going to have to just give you a broad stroke because there's a lot of proprietary information that we'd probably have to go into executive session, and we can always do that at a future date if you want to know more information. But what it is, there's a company that is wanting to build a solar farm here in Nicholas County. It's going to consist of about 3,000 acres. It's abandoned strip mine property. So we basically get around $30,000 a year right now out of property taxes on this property. At one time, you got a lot because you had mining going on, you had equipment going on, you had things like that. But right now, it's around 30. They wanted to tie the pilot program in with the property taxes, and we kind of refused that because it's two separate things that they're leasing and things like that. So that will remain $30,000+ we get now. But the pilot program will be based on megawatts. The firm wants to put in a 250 megawatt operation. It'll be the largest east of the Mississippi we'll have here in Nicholas County. They want to pay by the megawatt, So the pilot will be $600 per megawatt per year, which comes out to around $150,000, plus the property taxes on top of it. So we bring these to you guys because you're part of us. Actually, you get most of all our money. So, but this will be something we're going to work pretty hard on in 2023. I think it's March. They want to have everything done and ready. They're waiting on one very large lease right now. And once they conclude that, then the lawyers have drawn up the lease agreement that we have with them, plus the pilot program. So the first quarter of 2023, we should have this in operation. Not the solar panel, but the deal made and go into that. So if you have any questions, I can answer to a point, or you can get a hold of me individually, any of you, and ask questions.
What's the location on that, Craig?
Nicholas County.
That's as much as we get, huh?
Right now. So
Okay.
Craig, what will you need from this board?
the only thing is, just like last time, you guys basically give us your okay. This one's pretty large, so there may be a sign off on it that they may require, the lawyers may require, that the board's okay with it. It's a 30-year pilot program, too.
Non-renewable, 30 years.
I would imagine there are other perks to it, or benefits to this as well. I mean, there's going to be some employment out of it.
There'll be some employment to begin with. There'll be quite a bit. It'll probably be 100 to 200 jobs at the beginning while they're building, because it's a pretty large operation. Then after the fact, I think they said 8 or 9 people, that will be to maintain and things like that.
And then a lot of seasonal workers, but they don't really have a number yet on what that would be through the summer.
And it could be, for your all's part, an education thing. I mean, I'm sure kids will want to see it, things like that. And it will be individually fenced off, so you'll be there, and there'll be somebody there all the time, and we've asked them things like that. Will we have access to it and things like that? And they said, just give us a little bit of notice, so we can tour the facility and things like that.
Keep us posted.
Okay. Any other questions?
And to add to Commissioner Chapman's point, there's already 125 kilowatts guaranteed in a current lease that they have already obtained. It's just the additional lease that Commissioner Chapman mentioned they're still after that could double the size of the facility to allow for the 250 kilowatt instead. So that's kind of the holdup right now on their end.
And originally, when we talked with them, they were kind of a building company. They'll build them, put it together, then sell it to investors. Now they've been bought out by a bigger company, and they actually maintain everything.
You said it's the largest east of the Mississippi?
Yeah, we'll have the largest. They're working on one in Boone County, but it won't be as large. And there's one in Kentucky, and it won't be as large. I think they're both around 200
Kilowatts or megawatts?
megawatts.
Megawatts, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Keep us posted.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, item number 4, discussion B, discussion on the superintendent's goals as they relate to school performance, student outcomes, and/or academics with board goals and actions to improve student achievement and well-being. County level check-in with ways in which your school is addressing area of low performance, how your school is working to increase attendance rates, frequency of principal presence in classrooms, and so we have Birch River, Zila, and Mount Nebo this evening.
So I'll begin just as I did last time in showing you a snapshot for today on the IXL data. We're going to go over the elementary, secondary, and then we'll look at each individual school. Then after I can complete my presentation, then each school will come up and speak for 3 to 5 minutes. And you'll be able to ask them questions. Got it?
I hope so.
Okay. So this is a snapshot for math as of today. This is a countywide comparison. Again, I think it's important for you to see, what we had previously and how much increases that we have for each area. And again, this is countywide for elementary. And if you look at above grade, we're showing 80 students. We went from 34 to 80. And one grade from 424 to 639. And below grade it was 453, now it's down to 324. And far below was at 226, now 135. And the not pinpointed was 288, down to 245. So we're seeing gains, which really is exciting. The snapshot for the ELA elementary, again, you can see that we had 77 students above, now we're at 80. We went from 318 on grade to 639 on grade. We went from 390 students below to just 324 below. And far below at 339, reduced that all the way to 135. And then 301 students not pinpointed to 245. So if this correlates with our testing, this is some really good news. This is a really good snapshot to see how we're doing. This is secondary. So you can see it's not nearly as good as what the elementary was. But of course, we had 4 students above grade for math. We're still at 4. We had 53 on grade. 43 on grade. We've increased to 53 on grade. We went from 120 students below grade to 126 below grade. Then we went from 1,265 far below to 905 far below. And then we went from 412 students not pinpointed to 753 not pinpointed. I'm not exactly sure why, but this is data that will be before my monthly principals meeting again to discuss. And then the principals, again, this is just for your information. This is secondary math. ELA secondary, we went from 103 above to 110 above grade. We went from 130 on grade to 106. We went from 192 below grade to 142 below grade. We went from 927 below grade, far below grade to 713. We went from 492 not pinpointed to 770 not pinpointed. And this goes 6th through 12th grade. Now I'm going to look at the 3 schools we are showing tonight. So we have Birch River Elementary. We had 13 students on target. On grade. We have 6 students on grade. Chris has moved it on me. Okay. And then we went 7 students on grade. We've increased that now to 22 students on grade. So we're seeing some increases there. And again, I think the bar graphs are pretty good, easy to highlight. Does he need to see this? Can we not just set that up for him when we're
Yeah, but I didn't know if they wanted to see.
Oh,
what
so
you're
it's
doing.
not showing him over there. I got you.
I wanted them to see what you're doing. It's not showing up here. I want that. I'll switch to this one.
Oh, okay, we haven't got it.
That's that.
Okay, so again, ELA from Birch River went from 7 students on grade to 22 students on grade. We went from 15 students below grade to 16 below grade. We went from 21 students far below to just 10 far below. And we went from 18 students not pinpointed to just 3% not pinpointed. Again, you can see this is definitely seeing some gains. Math, whoops, I'm sorry. Guys, Chris got me all messed up, just 1 second, I apologize. Let me go back again, because I went from English to math. Math, let me go one more time over this, because it's 13 students above grade on math to 6 now. 20 below grade to now we have 37. 20 below.
They went from no students above grade to now having some students above grade.
Yeah, so that's jumped.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're seeing some good increases here. Yeah, so the on grade, above grade, all my numbers, on grade, there we go, 37 students on grade. So we went from 13 to 37. And then we went from having none above grade to now 6 above grade. We went from 20 below grade to 12 below grade. So we went from 15 far below to just 3, and we went from 14 students not pinpointed to 4. So that's really good. That's excellent. So Birch River, good job, math. And then their ELA, let's try this. 1 student above grade to 11 students above grade, 7 students on grade, to now we have 22 students on grade. And then we have 15 students below grade to 16 below grade, and then 21 far below to just 10 now. We had 18 unpinpointed and 3 now we have unpinpointed. Again, great gains for math, or ELA for Birch. And then you've got your ZELA, 14 students on grade. They had none above grade last time. So now they have 2 students above grade, and they moved from 14 students on grade to 30 on grade. And 21 below grade to now just 15, 19 far below to just 10, 19 unpinpointed to 16 unpinpointed. So ZELA's doing well. Definitely seeing the gains. And for their ELA, they went from 1 student above to now 5 above. 7 students on grade to 20 students on grade. And then 17 students below grade. I'm sorry, they went from 18 students below grade to 17 below grade. 28 students far below to just 14 far below. 19 not pinpointed and 17 not pinpointed now. Again, definitely seeing gains. Mount Nebo, we had 8 students above grade in math. To now we have 16 students, so they doubled. They have 40 students on grade to now 72 students on grade. They went from 27 students below to just 12 now, 10 far below to 0 far below now, and 23 students unpinpointed down to 8. And that is math for Mount Nebo. Excellent, look at this. And then you've got your ELA. They went 16 above to 27 above, 29 students on grade to 51 on grade. Went from 27 students below grade to 19. Went from 12 far below to now just 5. Went from 24 not pinpointed now to just 6. Again, look at the graphs. So that's the presentation for each of those 3 schools. And I'll ask Birch River to come up and speak 3 to 5 minutes. You can give your highlights. I don't know if you have a PowerPoint or if you just...
I have a PowerPoint.
You know how to get it up there?
What is it? You can do a spring, what's it called?
I don't know. You have to ask Chris. You're asking the wrong person.
Dr. Lee and Annie, these, the IXL, it is, oh, Josie, I'm sorry.
Amy's wrong.
Annie's your mother, I had her in school. These are, I'm getting old. I think it's one. These are, the IXL is in tune, so to speak, with state standards for each grade level, math and English language.
Correct.
Reading, right? So when they're testing on this and getting these types of numbers, which show these are positive numbers on the elementary level, I think we've got some work to do on the secondary level, but this should be indicative that the kids are doing better as they approach the final summative testing in the spring. That's not going to, that's one-time test, and so that's not to say that that's going to be all better, but we should be seeing some positive results as a result of the IXL, correct?
Yes, and we looked at the students' summative assessment scores from last year and compared them to the snapshot scores from the beginning of this year. So over time, as they're taking the IXL snapshots, we can compare that data and come up with some direct comparisons. So if you score this on IXL, you'll score likely mastery on summative assessment. So we can use IXL not just to help them learn, but in a meaningful way to increase our test scores at the end of the year.
And all of the teachers are using this?
Mm-hmm. Well, for the most part, you can see that there are some gaps where people aren't pinpointed, and that's something that we've been discussing with the administrators, the principals meetings, to close those gaps. And our TISs are meeting with the teachers as well to help them with that part.
Thank you.
Elementary is definitely doing better at it.
Yeah.
Okay, so Birch River had 3 talking points that we were to go over: areas of low performance, attendance, and principal presence in the classroom. Our low performance, looking at our GSA, our 3 classes that were assessed, our data was 55% does not meet standard, or 70% does not meet standard. So in math, 2/3 was 55% does not meet standard, and ELA 2/3 or 1/3 does not meet standard. Our beginning of the year IXL data, we had 1 student that was above grade level, 7 students that were on grade level, 16 students below grade level, and 21 students far below grade level. So, I mean, if you look at that, there's somewhat of a parallel in 55 to 70% that does not meet standard versus that beginning of the year IXL data. Looking at our PALs, the beginning of the year, I screenshotted this. This column right here is the percentage of each one of these classes, kindergarten, first, second, and third, that identified as needing extra help. They were not ready to move forward reading. They needed interventions. So, I mean, our kindergarten class identified at 86%, first grade 38%, second grade 56%, and third grade 67%. Areas of focus due to our low performance. Well, it's kind of hard to focus on one certain thing when you've got such a large number that are not coming close to standard. So what I have done is I've built in a WIN group, which is called What I Need, for all the students in 3rd through 5th, and then a different WIN group model working in my 1st and 2nd grade classes. This is 40 minutes of intervention, 3 days a week for ELA, 2 days a week for math. I'm using my interventionist, my Title I. I myself am doing WIN groups on 2 days a week for math. And we are dividing those classes out, and we are working with groups less than 5. And we are strategically hitting these kids using the Quick Phonics Screener where they need the instruction. Going back, reteaching, we're using IXL, we're using all the hands we can gather to focus in that instruction where it's needed. You're seeing the gains in IXL, but we've done this is our PLC data, which is where we focused specifically in on these 3rd, 4th, and 5th grades that we've been doing these WIN groups with. We got it organized and really rolling on October 11th is when I took like a snapshot of the IXL data. November 1st, I did another one, and we had a PLC on November 7th where we went and looked through the number of students with the data negative growth, number of students 0 to 10 points growth, number of students with 20 to 30 growth, and the number of students that had 40 plus. In that amount of time, 10 would have been the total growth that we were looking for, and we ended up with quite a few more. You can see, and this is the math, with 20 to 30 or 40 and more growth in just 2-3 weeks. ELA, not quite as much growth. Again, ELA is one of those areas that needs a little bit more of the interventions. Areas of focus due to low performance using our IXL, which I'm going to show you a little bit of what the superintendent showed you, our growth from the snapshot. But as a whole school, what we have done is we are implementing IXL 20 minutes a day in the classroom. This is not to replace a teacher by no means. You cannot replace a teacher with a program ever. But this is practice. This is practice that's targeted. The teachers are using it 3 days a week to align to their curriculum and their standards. 2 days a week we're going into the diagnostic arena and we are targeting each child where they need targeted. So we're picking those skill levels that they are struggling with and we're making them work on them. So we've got intervention and on-level curriculum built in through that diagnostic time. But that's where you're seeing our diagnostic overall growth. And I can tell you, being on that program, working with the kids on this program, it's really good at hitting those targets where they need, where the students need those interventions. The depth of knowledge questions, I'm not seeing a whole lot. It's skill building. It's the depth of knowledge is going to come from teacher projects. So, again, this is the same thing the superintendent just showed you for our math and ELA. Our attendance incentives, our whole school, we're doing weekly, every week we track every classroom's attendance. And the class with the highest percentage of attendance gets ice cream in the afternoons. The cooks provide it. We chart, I don't know if you can see that, I'll zoom in. We have a chart on the wall where we're documenting the winning class every week. This just changed from ice cream cones to snowflakes today, so. We're posting it on Dojo because in elementary, it's not just kids. I mean, kids somewhat can drive their parents getting them to school, but it's parents. So I'm putting it on Dojo, trying to bring parents in. Hey, did you know we're doing this? Can we get some parent involvement? Trying to get the parents involved in that attendance. And then I'm tracking it weekly with a graph so I know exactly what our numbers are. The teachers are doing Class Dojo points for kids who come to school on time, bell to bell. We're wanting to build in field trips for the second 9 weeks, but we haven't built those in yet. We're wanting to build in field trips, and I think I'm going to try and start doing some class awards when they are all there. A certain amount of days, given whole class awards. That way, they're not just having that competition, but once the whole class gets somewhere, they get something. This is a chart or a graph that I made, and this is actually what our attendance has looked like throughout the year. Start of the year, we were pretty high, 96.5%. Last couple weeks, we've dropped. We've had COVID, we've had the flu, we've had RSV, we've had hand, foot, and mouth. And we've had one family that had a loss that had a very large number of kids in a very small school. So that dropped our attendance rates, and I don't know that there's anything that I could do about that. We send home, We send home attendance letters for 3 days, unexcused absences. I have my social worker follow up with a phone call to the families. What do you need? How can we help you? You know, this is the importance. This is the parallel between achievement and kids being to school. Well, I've got my social worker putting on dojo messages on dojo, the value, we'll zoom in again, the value of an education coming to school, what it does, encouragement. I'm also putting on our good habits. So she's posting these to dojo. The dojo goes to all the families in the school that are connected. So we're trying to educate parents as to the parallel in between. I hope I'm not taking too long. Let's try and hurry. Proactive announcements on dojo, and I'm also recognizing winners of those class. And then last but not least, principal presence in the classrooms. I'm in the classrooms every day. It's not always formal, informal. Here's a bus note, here I need this kid, they're being signed out, or here's paperwork, this needs sent home. So I'm always in the classrooms and out and about. I do frequent walkthroughs, going in, seeing what's going on, making sure, just observing. And then I try and do more formal observations once a month if I can get in there. It's about once a month. I would like to be in there more, but things do come up. And then I am doing a small math group because I believe my presence in those small math groups is important right now, considering that deficit that we have. So I am working with a small math group on 2 evenings a week. And then, of course, you've got the evaluation system, the formal observations that go into the system 4 times a year for new teachers, 2 times a year for teachers that have in between 3 and 6 years. Any questions?
What's your school population now?
We have 77 kids. So when a family of 5 goes out because of that.
And you feel like this program is primarily skill building? That's what it concentrates on, you think?
I've not got a whole lot of, there's a lot of skill building. So I think it's a practice. It's a good program that goes along with the instruction, along with the standard being taught. And it's a good way to practice, and it gives the students some independence, and it also hits them on their level because they're technology, they're not pencil paper anymore. It's worksheets don't fly. But it does have some more depth of knowledge. It has videos, it has games, it has other things, but I think it is a skill building. It doesn't replace a teacher, and it's not going to replace that depth of knowledge questions that you see. I think that's still going to be something that I have to focus on.
Do you feel like it coordinates well with the state standard?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then next will be Zila.
All right, I've got a PowerPoint, and I'll be as brief as possible. Here's a copy of it, so I want to give you something you can take with you and want to look back at it at a later time. All right, so good evening. Good evening, members of the board and Dr. Teacher. So I'm going to be brief and just quickly go through it. If you have questions about anything in more details, just ask me even as we go or at the end. It doesn't make a difference to me. And I'm addressing the three questions that you posed before me. The first one, how we're addressing areas of low academic performance.
Two fingers wide.
Two.
I think you have to go ahead.
Okay. And you've seen this before, the West Virginia Balanced Scorecard, and these are all the middle schools and the secondary schools. Zila Elementary School, as you can see down here with academic achievement, we're in the red for ELA and partial yellow for the mathematics. We clearly have some work to do there. My school took a big hit during the COVID, during the remote time. Our internet was poor. I just didn't feel like we had the quality instruction that we needed. But after that, if you look at our academic progress since then, okay, we are in the blue here for ELA for academic progress. So we meet standards on that one, and then we exceed standards on the math. So I'm very proud of our recovery initiative for that, our math, and then our ELA is on track too, I feel like too. So I want to continue those types of strategies that we're doing. And this is the same thing, but just Zila only, the same data. This is a book study that some PL that I've done with my staff this year. One of our goals this year is to become a trauma-sensitive school. Now, you might ask, well, what does that have to do with academics? I need all kids ready to learn when they walk in the door. And as all of you have been educated in education, you know that most kids are ready when they get there, but not all. Now, I want to give my first grade teacher, Mrs. Wood, credit. She's put me on this book right here. And so this has been a focus for our school. We've got trauma. In order for all kids to be ready to learn when they walk in, trauma, it's not necessarily kids that something has happened like one event, like domestic violence or something like that. It can also occur over time. Things like poverty, malnutrition, a death in a family. And I'm sure you're thinking of all these things that could happen that would have a negative influence on these kids. So we have implemented a lot of strategies to try to get these kids ready to learn when they get to school. And we do that by some self-monitoring strategies. I'm not going to go into all of them, but here's one. Here's one of the first things that we do in the morning when the kids come in. When we come in, when we start today, we know if we're ready to go, and we know if we're not, what we need to do to get there. Kids they don't know that yet, so we're trying to teach them that. So we've taught these four colors: the blue, the green, the yellow, and the red zone. The green zone is the happy zone that you want to be in. I'm happy, I'm ready to learn. Okay? But not everybody comes in that way, and it's okay. Sometimes we're in the blue zone. We're sad, we're bored, we're tired, we're sick. Okay? And if I know that I'm in that zone, then I know what I need to do to try to get in the correct zone, to get back to the green zone. If I'm in the yellow zone, I'm worried, frustrated, silly, excited. If I'm in the red zone, I'm angry, I'm terrified, I'm scared. And so the kids are kind of doing a self-assessment the first thing in the morning to figure out what zone are they ready. And that also encourages discussions with their teachers, and then they can apply some strategies to help them get there. We've got some breathing strategies, things like that. Okay? Here's another big thing with me. I don't know if you've heard of it, PBIS, Positive Behavioral Interventions and Supports. This is a joint program with, I think, Marshall University and the Center for Autism as well. But this ties into the whole school culture. I want a strong school culture where kids are ready to learn when they come to school. I want to maximize the efficiency of instruction. In other words, I want to spend less time dealing with behavior and more time on instruction with these kids. And this has been very effective in my school. I'm a big proponent of it. I support it. And this one's just, and this is a slide that I got from PBIS, talks about the purpose of it, to make the schools more effective and equitable learning environments for all students. And this talks about, it shows how it deals with mental health, improved outcomes for students, improved outcomes for teachers, reduced discipline actions, and I'm seeing all that as well. So, and I'm very proud of our PBIS team. We've been involved in it a few years. I've been working closely with one of the state PBIS leaders, and one of the issues that they've had statewide since the introduction of WEBIS 2.0 is that nobody can seem to figure out how to pull data from it for PBIS. I figured it out, and I do that, and they tell me I'm the only school in the state that's doing that. And they have asked me if I would share my formula for collecting that data and statewide. And they're also considering making Zeeland a model school for the entire state because of the progress and because of the data. So I'm very proud about that and of my people for that. We're not dealing with a lot of serious types of behaviors. In October, we tend to pick one behavior that we can work on. In October, it was following directions. So we spent time teaching the kids how to follow directions. For you and I, it's easy. For them, it's not. The first thing they weren't doing, they weren't sitting still. They weren't listening, and they were moving all over the place. We really worked on that, and that improved. We looked at the referrals for October to make a decision in November. What do we want to focus on? And what we're finding now is that some kids are not coming to school prepared. In other words, they're not ready to start today, and their iPads are not being charged. If that's the worst problem that I have, I feel pretty good about that. And so I feel like it's doing good. It enables our teachers to spend more time in quality instruction. And that's the purpose of this PBIS program. Teacher collaboration. I've got several projects on that. We do PLCs weekly. I've got the vertical academic PLCs. And this is something I've started this year. I do this once a month with all my staff, even my aides. I've got a student and staff support committee. We've got the PBIS, which I talked about. I've got a safety committee, and I've got a school beautification committee too. So all of my staff have an option of picking one of those categories and serving on those too. And so we're getting some good ideas from those, especially from here and here. I believe in quality professional development. I do a leadership academy every year in August prior to the beginning of school. And this is not the first days of school. When teachers report back, it's game time, kids are coming, everybody I feel like is stressed, you're trying to get ready. But I have this a little earlier in the year when the teachers are relaxed and we can sit down and we can really do some creative thinking on some good ideas. And that's where our trauma initiative came from as well. So this year I spent 2 whole days with my staff working on these types of interventions and goals. And that has been, I think it's been very, very productive for my school. And I would like to continue that. Now it's based on Title I funding, and I hope that continues. I hope I can continue the funding for that. But we get a lot of stuff out of the way, and then when it's time for the kids to come, we're just preparing for that. And I think that's been a positive thing. I talked about the trauma-sensitive early education book study. We still do that and revisit that from time to time. Now, this was last year, Department of Education, Teresa Bailey. She had a program that she put on at the Principals Academy, Just-in-Time Learning, and that was making up academic deficits, and I thought that was a good professional development, and so I coaxed her out of Charleston to come down and do that for my school. I think Cherry River came over and sat in with that too, so that was productive too. Some other tools, you saw the IXL data, that seems to be promising too. I like that. I've got some protected whole group instructional times. We don't pull kids out during those times. Some really aggressive intervention as well. And I like your intervention, my schedule. There's a 1 hour block for most classes. And during that time, that's the only time that the kids are pulled out for intervention. And while that's going on, making up these deficits, these kids that don't need it, they're doing the same types of things, but enrichment types of things. Okay? And then this is big with me. Everybody knows my school. Positive attitudes, negative attitudes. They're just it's a cancer in a school or a school system, and we want to avoid that. So we have with my staff a voluntary no complaining policy. It's just not allowed. I don't allow. Now we can talk about problems all we want, but if we talk about problems, we got to talk about solutions. That's the caveat. Okay. Attendance. I think the goal here is to foster positive parent relationships. I've got a social worker that makes calls and home visits. We have regular communication when the kids are absent. A lot of the parents will call in and tell me what's going on. They know they're going to get called anyway, so they call me. Here's a big one: Run Club. We do a Run Club where the kids get to participate. It's voluntary, but 95% of the kids participate, and they really look forward to it. Gives them something to look forward to when they come to school. And of course, the PBIS, that addresses like anti-bullying types of things too. The frequency of my presence in classrooms. I typically do a morning walkthrough. I stop in and visit each classroom at the beginning of the day. Say good morning. I check in with a lot of kids as well. My routine school business. I don't like to spray out emails everywhere. If it's important, I stop. Even if there's instruction going on, I'll stop in the classroom and I try to minimize it. But the kids know that I pop in regularly, and that way I get to see what's going on, and I can check in with people too as well. Sometimes I come in to read books to the kids. A lot of times they'll have a class project that they're proud of and they want me to come see. At the conclusion of it, I'll stop in for that too. And I also do lunch duty as well and get to sit down and talk to a lot of the kids during that time. One of the biggest things I do, though, is for the PBIS program, my Responsible Behavior Academy. What that is, all the kids that don't get any referrals for that, then they're eligible at the end of the month for some type of party. Okay? I think we get about 95% of the kids eligible for that every month. The ones that are struggling with certain behaviors, they go to the academy, and that's where they sit down with me personally or my counselor, and we work on these behaviors. It's not a discipline, it's a reteach. We teach them the right thing to do, and that's been effective. And so I'm very involved in that. Okay, that's it. Any questions?
Mr. Marks, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Mr. Kyrie, we're out of time, sorry.
I was going to say, they ignored the 3 to 5 minute rule, so let's just see if you can stay within that.
You can forget it.
Why do people always laugh when I come up here? I can do it in 30 minutes, I think. I mean
3 to 5, not 30.
I'm going to get fired. So, I want to say one thing to Jim. I got one of Jimmy's students, and Jimmy, for what you did must be working. I haven't had 1 minute, and this child, you wouldn't know from any other. I mean, she's doing great. She's doing great.
That's great. This was a little first grader, and she scared me.
Jimmy scared me. I mean, really.
But she's, that's.
Doing great, Chip, doing great. Hey, well, Dr. Tetrick, I made a PowerPoint of my IXL data and not of what else I was going to say. So that's really nice. So you saw my data. I just want to say I am proud of my data I'm getting, and I agree with what Laura said when Mr. Moose asked her. And I'm going to say just one thing. Last year I had to buy it, and I remember talking to at Mount Lookout about and we're bought into it really well, and I'm proud of my teachers. It's really we're seeing a lot of growth in the beginning of the year till now, and you could see it on the screen. But we get bragged on by some people, and we're pretty proud of our what we're doing out there. So, but I wrote the next two things. I about have to read it, I think, so I don't miss something. But the way so I'm not a Title I school, but the way we're addressing low performance. I'm addressing low performance through teachers setting clear expectations for quality work and maximizing the time students are engaged. Teachers are using formative assessment to guide their instruction. The data that is collected helps identify our academically low performing students. Teachers are utilizing small groups to address weaknesses. I have 2 interventionists are working with groups of students to close gaps in learning. Technology, and we're still using SmartyAns to help meet students where they are in reading, and we're building those extra phonics skills to strengthen reading ability. IXL is giving extra practice of those skills. We're also meeting the needs of the whole student to ensure they are physically and mentally ready to learn by utilizing our counselors, our PE teacher, in some cases the cook, as a team effort to address academic performance of our students. It takes us all. I want to talk to you next how we're working to increase attendance rate. I start my day, I might read about down here, but I'll just say what I'll tell you about. I start my day with, I'm on LiveGrade, Secretary's on with Weavis, and we're making sure, we're talking about every student that I don't have there that day. And either it's me calling or her calling, or sometimes we're not calling because we already know that it's like Laura said, we've had, it's been pretty rough. These families are going through with this flu and with RSV and a little bit of COVID. Not much of that, but it's been pretty rough to have really good attendance. And we're trying hard at it. But every day I get to talk about it, and I like it. And then we're seeing who we need to talk to see if we want to find out for sure, can we do something to help them. So, but anyhow, we in some cases the parents will contact us first. Even like this morning, they had a call before we ever run the first bus. But we like to hear that too. That is what calls. If a teacher doesn't hear from a parent, we'll contact the parent through Doja. Sometimes when I go to the classroom every morning, and just spend a minute or two, making sure about that they know what's going on with that student while they're not there. And most of the time, sometimes they can tell me, sometimes they can't. But so I walk. I'm kind of nosy, so I'm in those rooms quite a bit. Not to interrupt them, but I just got to see what's going on, and I want to know. So I'm like, Rocky's mom is my sister, and she said when she was 8 in our county, she said I'm just nosy. So that's the way of me. I just grew up that way. But I stopped to say hello and to check on to see and talk about their students. And when I had 2 teachers write this about me, he said he has a great relationship with the students, and this helps them recognize that their principal cares about their attendance. And I won't go to that part, I'll go in there. So I've had a program which is bell to bell for several years, and that means they've got to be, to get my reward, our reward at the end of the month, they've got to be there at the start, stay all day, and stay to the finish, and then their reward at the end of the month with certain things that, another way that we reward good attendance. They can't make that, and I know that's kind of tough. Out of this year has been my lowest yet, out of 106 kids. That's what I have. I have 108 right now, but when I had 106, I would only have 40-some or 50-some that made the party or the whatever I had planned for them at the end of the month. But what I was going to say too about my attendance, we spell in every room has an incentive for good attendance. And whether it's spelling out perfect attendance, that takes a while. I've got 2 teachers to do that, but every teacher has something they do for their kids to see if we can have the best attendance possible. Okay, I think I can. Is there any questions for me?
Good job. He bet his time.
I don't know. I didn't rehearse it. I can go on for a little longer.
You've been doing this for 2 years, right? I mean, you're the one that, your school got us going on this.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Now, have you seen a big change from the first year to the second year? Do you see more progress?
Well, yes. I tell you, I'm not just. But I'll tell you, I set my teachers on the after school year talking about this. I mean, we talk about a lot, but we back up. We are really pleased, and we're seeing better this year than last year. We are actually seeing our scores and our data looking better. At what the above grade and on grade level, and of course we're doing it every day. And probably spend a little bit longer at times than what the county's even what they have told us we should be trying to do. But I mean, yeah, Mr. Moose, we are seeing really good results. I thought my test scores last year, I'm gonna tell you, I thought we really did think we saw results last year. I think we'll see even better results this year. This is our second year for it.
You saw improvement on the end of the year test.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Is Mrs. Young still there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
She was kind of spearheading that, wasn't she?
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to action items, approval of the superintendent's dress code guidelines. We had 2 options on that was in your board.
Yep. And so Melissa's going to present on this. She's the one that conducted the survey. One of the things that was really important to me, I try to go around each year and talk to students and find out what types of things. I like to ask seniors, what can I do? If there's one thing that I can do that would help other students in school, what would that be? And overwhelmingly, I had students ask me for the past few years to look at the dress code. I've had parents come in with their students. One student had a hole right here, the size of a 50-cent piece, right there, that had duct tape on the pants. The student was so humiliated, she called her father to come get her. He was devastated. He said, it's unfair for my child to have duct tape on her pants. And he went on to say, especially when she's paraded all over the country with her rear hanging out in athletic apparel approved by the school. So he had some pretty good points, and I'm just speaking very plainly with you. I've had multiple discussions with parents about such things. I have had great concerns about our dress code being discriminatory toward females. And so I know that Melissa put forth a policy for the dress codes, and in that policy it stated that I would bring forward guidelines. So after a lot of review of guidelines, and again, that's something that I asked Melissa to take a look at, and we did a survey, and she can speak to that, and some of the answers to the survey, which she may want to share with you, that are even kind of silly. So, anyway, turn it over to her.
Okay, so really, you know, dress codes can be controversial because somebody's idea of what's appropriate is very subjective and may be very different from someone else's idea of appropriate. So it's a challenge to come up with a dress code that's going to please everybody. But we do have the legal authority to enact dress codes to promote learning, safety, civic virtue, and image. However, that authority is not without limits. The first time that the courts weighed in on a dress code issue was in the 60s during the Vietnam War. You had a school district that said that students weren't allowed to wear black armbands in protest of the Vietnam War to school. Some students, of course, who disagreed with that came to school. They just had black armbands on, and they were suspended. And this was fought all the way to the Supreme Court. This is Tinker versus Des Moines Independent School District. And what the courts found was that students do not shed their First Amendment rights at the door. So when they come through the doors, they still bring their First Amendment rights, freedom of expression. And while they didn't rule on dress codes per se, what they did say is that schools cannot use a dress code to hinder free speech, and it established what is called the substantial disruption test. So schools may regulate speech if they can show that the speech or conduct would materially and substantially interfere with the learning environment. So that's kind of the test that's in effect today. Of course, we can regulate speech that advocates for violence or illegal activity. So, you know, like dress clothing with drug paraphernalia on it, or references to alcohol, of course, we can regulate that because that is illegal activity for students. So we do have the right to do that. So that's just kind of a little bit of background there. Now, there's also been some recent court rulings on this. So schools can implement dress and grooming standards that don't discriminate on the basis of some protected class, like race, sex, religion, or national origin. And kind of the thing that you need to kind of keep in mind with this is that there are two types of discrimination. There's something that's called overt discrimination. So that's something that's on its face is discriminatory. Girls are not permitted to wear pants, and actually we've got a Fourth Circuit ruling on that very issue that I'll go over in just a minute. So that would be considered overt discrimination. Another one is called disparate impact. And this is where you have a rule or a policy or a practice that on its face is neutral, and there may be no intent to discriminate, but this rule or practice or policy unfairly targets a protected class. And so an example with this, there was a Texas school that created a dress code that prohibited dreadlocks. And a federal court in Texas said that that was discriminatory because it unfairly impacted African American students. And that was Arnold versus Barbers Hill Independent School District. Oh, went the wrong way. So, and here's Title IX is an amendment to the Education Code of 1972, and I think this is where our dress codes and the way that they've been enforced have the potential to get us in some serious trouble. Title IX says that no person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from, and that's important, participation in or be denied the benefits of or be subject to discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. Title IX was originally created so that girls and female athletes would have equal access, equal opportunities in sports. And that was kind of the big push originally. These few words right here have been expanded into countless pages of regulations and policy and Supreme Court precedent and other court precedent. But so in the 70s, it was about girls having equal access to things like athletics, and then it turned into educational courses. You know, like there was a time when girls were discouraged from taking math classes, and they were encouraged to take home math classes. And then, you know, more recently, it's dealt with things like sexual harassment. We have a great deal of responsibility under Title IX in regards to sexual assault and sexual harassment. The new battleground for Title IX is now dress codes. And you have lots of civil rights organizations such as the ACLU. They're picking these cases up free of charge for students who challenge dress codes on the basis that it's unfairly targeted to girls, which is predominantly the issue, and the girls are being excluded from class because of discriminatory dress code practices. Now, this is very important because if we're found to violate Title IX, if somebody under Title IX, so they can file a complaint with us, or they can file a complaint with the U.S. Department of Education. And if you get the U.S. Department of Education to come in here, they're not just going to come in and look at our dress codes. They're going to look at everything we do. And of course, we try to be above board and do everything fair, but, you know, we've got schools to build, we've got other things to worry about. We don't need the Department of Ed in here, you know, with a microscope. So we want to be very, very cognizant of Title IX. So here's the case that I was referring to. This is probably the most recent case dealing with dress codes. This was a Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals case. We are in the Fourth Circuit. This is an en banc decision, which means the entire panel of judges heard this appeal. This is Peltier versus Charter Day School. I believe this is a North Carolina school. And what the court ruled was that this charter school's gender-specific dress code was a violation of the Equal Protection Clause and Title IX. And so what this school district did, they had a dress code that said that girls must wear dresses. Girls are not permitted to wear pants. And the court found that dress code to be discriminatory. And they said in order to justify gender-specific dress codes, a state actor must show that the differences in treatment based on gender serves an important governmental interest. This is a legal term of art, and this is a very high standard. And there must be an, quote, exceedingly persuasive justification, unquote, for such treatment. It would be very, very difficult to develop a dress code that requires girls to dress in one way and boys to dress in another. And in my legal opinion, that if you're going to enforce it more heavily on girls than you do with boys, you're going to run into trouble with this. And it also, in this case, said that promoting traditional gender roles is not sufficient and falls woefully short of satisfying the constitutional test. So, when we look at making a dress code, we've got to consider all of that, okay? We want a dress code that teaches students how to dress appropriately, right? And so that we have a safe and orderly school system. We also have to comply with state and federal law and policies, and we have to seek input from parents, staff, and students. And that was the policy that Dr. Tieter referred to, and that's NCBOE Policy 5511. And we did do a survey. We had an electronic survey that was posted on our website. It was posted to our Facebook page. It was emailed to the staff and to all secondary students. And we asked respondents to review a draft dress code, and they were asked to say whether they felt the dress code was reasonable, too restrictive or not restrictive enough, and they could also make comments or offer suggestions. So we had 436 people complete the survey. 26% were students, 27% were parents or guardians, and 47% were students, that's a typo, were staff members. So overall, 297 or 68% of the respondents felt that the draft proposal that we had was reasonable. 19 felt that it was too restrictive, and 13% felt that it was not restrictive enough. So overall, the vast majority of people felt like we were on the right track with the draft guidelines. Now, just to break this down a little bit, because it's interesting to compare kind of the different groups of people that responded to see how they felt. Parents or guardians, again, overwhelming majority of them felt like the draft proposal was reasonable at 63%. 20 felt it was too restrictive, and 17% felt that it was not restrictive enough. Students, 51% felt the draft proposal was reasonable. 46% felt that the draft proposal was too restrictive, and 3% felt that it was not restrictive enough. I will say, based on some of the comments that I read, I believe that a good number of the students were answering based on the current dress code, just based on some of the comments that they made. So if, even though we made it clear that they were to read the draft proposal and comment on the draft, I think maybe that this number may be skewed a little bit. But still, you have a majority who felt like it was reasonable. For staff, this was the biggest group of people who felt that the draft proposal was reasonable. 81% of the staff felt that the draft proposal was reasonable. 2% felt that it was too restrictive, and 17% felt that the draft proposal was not restrictive enough. So, some of the comments. Many of the adult respondents expressed that they wanted stricter guidelines for girls. We cannot have stricter guidelines for girls. I mean, it was girls need to do this and girls need to do that. We can't do that for the reasons that we just discussed. And also, we even had one couple of comments from staff, and I don't know who the staff were, but one staff person suggested that we have monitors placed at the door of a morning, that when students walk in, that they're checked to make sure that they follow the dress code, and if they don't, send them home. Again, looking back at that Title IX statute there about people being excluded from an education program, when we send kids home, when we send girls home, or they go home because they're so humiliated because they have duct tape on their pants, we've excluded that person from an education program. And I think we're in serious danger there. And we also had one person who said that schools ought to have clothes so that if students violated the guidelines, then they would have clothes for them to wear. That would just be, both of those things, in my opinion, would be so unworkable, and I think our teachers have more important things to worry about. And not only that, I think our students have missed enough school. So many student respondents expressed that they felt like the previous or the draft dress code unfairly targeted girls, and of course that's problematic for legal reasons. I did tweak the guidelines based on that, just because after I thought about that and I looked back the way that I had things worded, thought that I could word it better so that it was clear that it wasn't about targeting one gender above the other. We had several respondents who felt that hats and bandanas should be permitted. And really, back whenever I was growing up, and we're of the age that if men wore hats in the building, it was considered rude. And that's a cultural norm. I don't think that's a cultural norm today. So anyway, that's why you have two options here. One is will allow hats and one will not. So we'll let you all make the call on that. And if you look at I put option 1 and option 2 in your board packets. The changes that I made to the draft are in red. And I'll kind of go over those a little bit and explain why I made those changes. Well, number 1, I struck the word shorts and skirts and put clothing. Clothing should cover undergarments and the buttocks area. Shorts and skirts, somebody could felt like girls, I had, you know, several female respondents say, why are you targeting girls? And I thought, well, that's probably a pretty fair statement. So I changed it to clothing. I think that achieves the same objective, and it's just a little more neutral language. On number 2, I added no see-through material is permitted that exposes undergarments. It was pointed out that there are shirts and things that have see-through materials in the sleeves, and if they can wear a short sleeve shirt, what's the problem with a long sleeve shirt that's see-through? So I think that was a reasonable change there. And on number 3 there, I struck the words weapon-related words, and I put that, or symbols that encourage or depict violence, because there have been cases where a student was forced to change clothes because he had a shirt on from the NRA, and the Supreme Court said, nope, you can't do that. That's students' First Amendment right to express support for the Second Amendment. So that was overturned. So I think this is a little clearer language. We can't have anything that encourages violence, but if somebody has a reasonable shirt that expresses support for the Second Amendment, you know, that would be permissible under Supreme Court guidelines. And so then, you know, the rest of the things there I think are self-explanatory. And if you'll notice there, the next to the last paragraph, when we address how staff is to address dress code violations, we have in here that they should not be excluded from class unless there is a material and substantial disruption. And if you remember that very first court case that I talked about, that's the test that the United States Supreme Court uses. So I felt we were pretty safe with that language right there. So there has to be a material and substantial disruption to the school environment, and then we go on to describe that, to define that. This is one that interferes with the orderly operation of the school, the delivery of instruction, or poses a serious threat to the learning environment, health, safety, or welfare of others. Too often, I think what we were doing is that we were blaming girls for the actions of boys, and I think that's highly inappropriate. Because we're all responsible for our own languages. I have a daughter. I raise sons. So I get it. I understand. You know, you're at the beach or whatever, and you're like, oh my gosh, here's my 12-year-old little boy, and he's so innocent. I think, you know, but ultimately he's responsible for his actions, right? He's got to learn. Boys have got to learn to control themselves around female students who may be dressed in a way that's provocative to them. And again, that is subjective. I know one time before I came to work here, my daughter got dress coded on a shirt that I thought was totally appropriate, in fact, that she'd worn to church multiple times. You know, so it's totally subjective. So we have to be careful that we don't impose our personal views on that, and we don't want to be disrupting removing kids from class. So staff should address dress code violations privately and discreetly with the student, and students who deliberately and repeatedly violate the dress code should be disciplined according to WBEB policy 4373. And I think as long as we follow 4373 in our discipline for any violation of you know, student code of conduct or whatever, then I think we're on sound legal ground. So I'll answer any questions that you have.
And option 2 is the only difference in it is that it allows hats.
Yes. Well, yeah.
So when you said several respondents felt that hats and bandanas should be permitted, how many?
I didn't count how many. I'd be happy to I can send you the spreadsheet and you can look. It was a fairly significant number. I didn't count them because there were 400. I didn't have a way to sort the comment section for that, so I had to gone through and counted it by hand instead of sorting. So I didn't count. But again, it's going to be hard. You're not going to come up with a dress code that's going to please everybody because it is just such a subjective thing. So I think you just have to do what you feel is the right thing to do, what's the best for students, and what serves our schools, keeping decency and order.
the one thing, a lot of schools use the hats as a fundraiser
Right. Well, and
or a
even,
reward.
right, and so even if you look at our dress codes here, if we say on option 1, it says no hats, sunglasses, or bandanas worn or displayed at school other than with order from a medical doctor or during principal-approved Spirit Week or other similar type situations. So even if you approve option 1, they'll still have the option to allow that under certain circumstances.
It was a lot of work to come up with these guidelines.
Yes.
And
I think, yeah, in a lot of your CTE classes, students wear hats, or they may be outside, they may be welding.
Right. Well, that would be safety gear, so that would be different.
Well, even just with a bill.
Yeah.
you know,
Well, it's
hat.
enforced differently. I know, I think we were standing together, and some schools are allowing students to wear hats, other
Mhm.
schools are not.
And I think that was another thing that a lot of the comments talked about is how there was disparity between the schools and how it's enforced. It's, you know, the perception is that it's enforced more stringently at some schools than others.
is this our first dress code guideline?
This is our first dress code guideline in I don't know how many years. So under our previous policies, we had a dress code there, and some schools had adopted their own. So, yeah.
That's my next question.
yeah,
If we adopt this
this will be countywide.
countywide and they're
guidelines.
expected to follow it.
Yes, yes.
I've had to deal with far too many kids being brought up here on dress code violations from angry parents, and I did not blame them.
Well, used to be, if you had a hole in your pants, you were ashamed and you didn't want to wear those to school, when I was going to school.
Right.
But now, that's the way you buy them.
You pay more for it.
Yeah, you pay more for those holes.
And actually, and then, you know, having a girl, I had a hard time finding clothes that she could wear to school that like she could never wear shorts to school because she's got very long legs. So there was not a pair of shorts made that would fit that girl that would be appropriate for her to wear to school. So she never wore, and even skirts. She would rarely wear a skirt because they just didn't fit her the way that they were required. And you know, now you go look at the tops, they're kind of half tops that set kind of like at their waist or whatever, and so you will see a little bit of belly right there, but if that's all you can find, that's all you can find.
That, on number 4 on the first option, piercings, tattoos.
Gang affiliated.
Gang of
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah,
So-
gang,
yeah,
yeah.
a lot
So
of-
they can still have tattoos, they can still wear jewelry, it's just affiliated with gangs, which
Okay.
we don't have that problem here, but
And that has to be recognized by law enforcement.
correct, correct.
Well, do I have let's see. We're going to choose one of these, correct?
Option 1 or 2.
So we'll do A separately. We'll go ahead and take care of A. Is that okay with the board?
Jumped up.
So do I have a motion to go with dress code option 1?
I'll make a motion. Go with option 1.
Do I have a second on option 1? The only difference in option 1 and option 2 is the hats and sunglasses and bandanas. Mr. Penix is thinking.
You know, the thing is with these guidelines, you can adopt something and then we can always change them later. I mean,
If it's problematic, it's not set in stone. Yeah, back in, we address it.
Well, I will second Mr. Green's motion to adopt dress code option 1. I will second that. Do we have any discussion on it?
Most of us make up our classroom rules. I did not allow hats in my classroom. But things change, you know, and I even when I represent the Forest Service in my job and I wear a hat, I feel uncomfortable wearing a hat inside because I'm old school, but
I'm not as young as you, but I'm old school, and I know when I sat down at the dinner table, my dad expected me to take my hat off, but that's just the way I was raised.
Yeah. The other thing is, I think it might create a problem in your vocational classes.
Well, they still have the option to wear that.
Does it specify
well, that,
formal classroom?
okay, so like with CTE, there's certain safety gear and stuff like that that's required, and that's elsewhere in policy, so I don't think this would apply to that.
I don't know, Mr. Bayless is
Mr.
here.
Bayless is here. Do you have an issue with hats?
Well, I'll allow my students wear hats, and some staff wears hats. The only part of the program I have that would require them to wear hats for the safety welding, they wear the little caps turned backward underneath their helmets. But other than that class, there's probably really no other safe reason to wear a hat. Though all my students in the top class do wear hats. And I will tell you, they like wearing hats, they feel like it's a privilege. And
Well, and in a case like that, if the principal
it's causing a problem.
would can allow it for,
But then you have the issue of unfairly
yeah.
offering, you know, it's an equity thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think it'd be more apparent when you get in your new facilities, when you have both situations at the same time.
The board would adopt option 1, I just would ask that we allow welding to continue to wear their hats underneath the helmets.
Well, and I think that would be covered under your safety regulations, so I don't think we'd need to address that in the dress code. I think that would be just permitted because would be required. I mean, you know, they wear a face covering that we wouldn't normally allow, but that.
Right.
But then it has the sunglasses thrown in there too. You don't want your kids wearing sunglasses in class.
Excuse me for a second. Sir, there's a wasp crawling up your chair leg, and it's about to get you.
It is? I was wondering where he went to. He flew right into my cheek. Thank you. Saved my life, sir.
Sorry, Mr. Green.
I mean, there's sunglasses in there also, and kids wearing sunglasses during class. That be wearing sunglasses indoors anyway.
Well, once again, if you have a special day, a celebration or something, I think that's when you allow that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's my opinion.
Well, and I think you can justify that on the basis that I think you've got a government interest there. People use that as rewards for behavior and fundraising. So I think legally you can justify it.
And as far as shop class, I think if they were in the classroom doing classwork, they should follow the guidelines. But if they're in the shop part, I think the hat would that not be different?
I don't think so. I think equity is an issue, and I'm just going to look at things on the flip side, and I'm truly okay with however the board wants to go on this. But you can say that sunglasses are not appropriate. You have some students are so insecure they have a difficult time with the eye contact. Sometimes just having glasses on with a tint can actually give confidence, and this is speaking from a counselor's point of view, can actually help the students have confidence in even approaching situations and approaching individuals. So there's ways to look at it, and sometimes looking at the way we were raised, and absolutely, I was definitely raised in the era that you don't wear your hat. You know, I saw people here when they said their pledge, they pulled their hats off. You know, there's a certain amount of respect, but I do know that we do have 2 schools that allow kids to wear hats inside, and 1 school does not. So I just think it's really important that everyone follows the same rules and that there's equity, because it can be challenging. Like I said, I can see both sides of it. I truly, you know,
Yeah,
whatever this board decides to do, I will do my very best to enforce it as equitably as I can.
And the sunglasses, my glasses have the change, the shade. When you're outside and you come in and they stay dark for a while. I don't think anybody needs to wear them inside unless they got problems with their eyes. Some people do have to have tinted glasses.
That'd be a medical issue then
Yeah,
it wouldn't be a
that
problem.
would be covered, yeah. And maybe even the changing of light, of course, bright light hurts your eyes. I have a little more trouble with the hands.
Sunglasses do change if you go inside or outside.
Yeah, that's what I say,
Yeah.
yeah. Pay extra for that.
Sorry, guys, we tried to make it as easy as we could. We truly did.
Well,
Do we need a dress code? I mean, actually, do we need a dress code? Do we have to have?
the problem, Mr. Bruce, is we've got one school that's strictly enforcing it and another school that's letting things slide. And
And I think we got one school that, in my opinion, is crossing some legal lines.
I do too. And I've expressed that concern repeatedly.
But things change and we have cultural norms and.
My question on the hats
You're right.
is
I
this.
agree with you.
It has to interfere with the educational process in some way. And do hats interfere with that?
Probably not. I mean,
Okay.
and that's why I said that's based on, I said prohibition on hats is cultural and probably serve no purpose other than to comply with outdated. And I'm one of those old school things, and my boys were taught you walk in a building, that hat comes off your head, period. You know, my husband wears a hat all the time. He walks in church, first thing he does, takes that hat off, you know.
But you'll see law enforcement that enters a building, half will leave their hats on, the other half pull it off. I've been watching that myself.
So, yeah. So,
That didn't help you any, does it?
you know, I'm like that. I'm old school too, but trying to look at it objectively, that's really probably the only reason I think you shouldn't wear hats in school, is because that's just the way I was raised, and that's the way my husband behaves, and that's the way I taught my boys. But it's just that old school thing, and I don't know that it serves any purpose other than that.
You trying to call our board president old?
I said I was the same.
Old school.
He's always joking.
I really don't think, if you had that, I say option 2, I don't think any more students would wear hats in school. I think maybe the same ones would.
Well, you have one school that doesn't allow hats at all, and another school that,
Well, they're probably
Two
not
other
used to,
schools.
so they wouldn't wear them, I wouldn't think.
oh, I think
Yeah, they would.
they would
So-
start wearing them.
so the
You don't
hang-up,
have secondary.
yes.
But hats are not the issue. I mean, do you deal with hats? Do you deal
You're
with
right.
hats?
You're right.
Do you deal with sunglasses?
No, I don't have to
Okay,
deal with
I
hats or
mean,
sunglasses.
this is about, I mean.
Holes in the jeans. and,
Yeah, you know,
Well,
dressing, I wish Walmart had a dress code, don't you, Ron? I withdraw that comment.
too late.
But I think Gus has made the point there, it's got to be disruptive.
We're the thing about a ball cap, a hat could be anything, you know. A ball cap's one thing, but who knows what kid's gonna wear called a hat?
But then that
Does it
would,
disrupt the school?
if it disrupts the school, You know, if they walk in with a hat that's, I don't know, 10 feet wide and it's blocking the view of other students of the chalkboard or whatever, I think that would be a substantial disruption of this, you know, of the jeopardize the learning environment because kids couldn't see the board. So I think under those instances, then probably a teacher would have the right to say, you got to take the hat off.
But that's reasonable, you know, I think that's reasonable. You know, I wouldn't wear a hat in, well, usually I wouldn't wear a hat in school, let's put it that way. Or in the house, but sometimes I forget.
And you know, part of that old school norm is guys take their hats off. Girls didn't have to. You know, that's the thing. Girls could wear hats. And so then you go back to that. You got a different set of rules for girls than you do boys.
Oh, that's challenging.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it either way because it doesn't affect me.
Yeah. I mean,
But
the sunglasses is what throw me off.
what if are our teachers going to be okay with it?
Well, you know, I think the overwhelming majority, I think 81% of the teachers,
We have a principal who will not be.
81%
It's already told me.
felt that it was reasonable. Of course, it had that in that. I can't imagine that you're going to lose a significant number of that over hats. I think the biggest issue has been how girls dress. Unfortunately, that's the biggest thing that weighs on adult minds is how these girls got to cover up. I had that comment repeatedly. These girls need to cover up. And that's inappropriate. So I don't think, I didn't see anybody make a comment and say, yes, I'm glad you're forbidding people to wear hats.
We have so much more important.
Yes.
Why don't we just throw number 5 out completely?
Well, that would be option
Leave it up to
2.
the people. I don't care.
Can't be.
If you don't want hats in your classroom, then that's okay.
Tell them. I think
It could be the option of the school.
Well, but then
That's in fact the same problem we're in right now.
Yeah.
We actually had students transferring from one school to another school because of dress code.
Yes.
Was it because of hats or something else?
No, dress code.
It's because they were enforcing. Let's table this until.
Okay.
Let's table this.
Let's table this until December 19th
Sure.
meeting. And is that okay with everybody?
Would you like for us to put out another survey to specifically ask about hats?
I would, yes.
Okay, we'll do that. We'll put out
We'll
another one.
go with what the majority,
Yeah, let
I don't
people
care.
speak.
Let them.
Okay.
We'll do that. That sounds fair.
Okay. Action item B, approval of the purchase of the, oh, by the way, I withdrew my motion. I didn't take my second. Sorry. Action item B, approval of the purchase of the hangar located at Lake Creek from Nicholas County Airport Authority for $1. Now, if you read that wrong, you thought we were selling it to them. We've already sold it to them, now we're buying it back.
Yeah. I can explain it to you if we have it here written down. Basically, when Air Evac paid for the hangar, had an installation at Glade Creek, when they were moving to the airport, this board was asked if they could take the hangar to the airport because Air Evac needed it. And since, so this board voted to allow that to help Air Evac. So now, and plus it's kind of an eyesore with where it's located, but now we are, the Air Evac did not go to the airport, so therefore it's no longer needed by them, and we are limited on funds, and we could really use that hangar to actually put storage areas in it, yes. So that's why it's nice to have it back. We'll just plant some pine trees around it.
Is the maintenance department not interested in that?
Well, they're gonna have a lot of stuff there, yeah.
I mean, that'll be a spot for them to store their stuff.
Yeah, it'll be maintenance, and it won't be just maintenance stuff. I mean, it'll be school stuff. I mean, maintenance touches
Yeah,
everything.
you got a nice concrete pad there that if the building stays, it would stay.
Well, that concrete pad, I think we're putting another building. We have a building that's been approved already that we're going to put on that pad.
With the storage.
Yeah.
I move that we approve, make a motion to approve action item B.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay.
Now,
Approval of Glade Creek construction design pending SBA approval. I think we have a presentation before
yes,
that.
Z&M and Skanska.
All right, well, let's do.
Spend burning energy.
Sure.
I didn't have that either, I didn't see it.
Oh.
Oh, that's stuff, yeah. I got it. There was a lot of detail. They depend on how well you fly.
Well, thank you all for having us back. I will work to keep this as brief as possible. It is a big building to go through, but you all have seen the building before. We were back here in June. We were given the directive to go back to policy 6200, make the reductions. We showed you a floor plan that did so. That was approved, moved on through schematics. So we're right now in the phase what's referred to as design development. Design development is roughly 50% of the construction documents, what would be the bidding documents. We have just now completed that. So what we're looking for is approval of those documents to be submitted to the school building authority. So
before you, one question. There's nothing in this that is above 6,200 standards.
this is per 6,200.
Nothing they can get us on.
Or less. 6,200 or less. It's 6,200 or less. There's a few spaces that are slightly less. They're right at the limit. So let me kind of work through this. So person did that.
Did he say 62
Or less.
Okay. So what happened?
This guy couldn't take it out and put it back in.
Depends on what it is.
Which one do you want?
Give me that one. Let's see if it loads it. All right, let's try this again. There we go. All right, so you've seen this slide before. Basically what we did was we go back, we did evaluation of all the program spaces, did a comparison to 6,200. We have a comparison program now that actually will be submitted to school building authority. They have seen that program before. We identified areas that needed to be reduced in the previous plan, and then we've got some calculated square footage per West Virginia student standards. We had to bring it back to those standards. That was the goal. So real quickly, the things we did: reduce the size of the auditorium to 1/3 of the student body, combine the e-gaming with the auditorium, reduce the middle school gymnasium to seat the middle school student enrollment, reduce the high school gymnasium to seat the high school enrollment. We deleted the academies in the middle school, deleted the walking and running track. This eventually became an alternate that was voted on. And then we reduced the size of the band and music in some of the adjacent spaces. Very similar to what was done in the Cherry River Richwood project. A couple other items that we recommended was reduce the overall height and reduce the volume of the building, so we're building less space, less exterior wall. The athletic buildings and the athletic fields were shown to be deleted. There was an outdoor dining room area that was deleted. That was deleted at the Richwood School as well. And then minor reductions in some interior finishes. So these are the two alternates that were approved last time. This is the auditorium expansion that was basically adding a balcony in the auditorium. It increases the seating, doesn't quite bring the percentage
of the enrollment of students quite to the level of what is at the Richwood School, but it's very, very close. And then the elevated indoor walking and running track. That has been changed since it was originally designed. It kind of went outside of the gymnasium. Now it's proposed all completely inside of the gymnasium. There we go. So site plan, very similar to what you've seen before. It's still parking in front. This is the main building. This is actually the new current footprint as the drawings that you're going to see. It's showing walkways. It's showing all the drop-off loops. And then it's showing these fields as future athletic buildings, facilities and fields as future. Floor plan hasn't really changed since you saw it last. Few little tweaks, couple things going through the building. It's still the same, and I will kind of focus in on a couple areas, so I'll show you here. But overall, everything in blue is high school, everything in green is middle school. Building services are more of your brown color, and then your kind of tannish color is your shared spaces. This is auxiliary gym. You've got some teacher planning areas, clinic, a few other areas through the building. And I will come back to this. Total square footage is still at 324. It's changed a little bit with a couple changes and a couple lab spaces. And then as we were applying the steel structure, and it pushes and pulls a few walls as we were moving things around, but overall very in line with what we showed you before and what was submitted as schematics. Second floor still identified, just this front area here. Allows us to have this lobby space, this volume located here, and then we do have the mechanical rooms on the second floor in the center of the building, and one here on the front side of the building on the opposite side of the auditorium. So just a little bit of blow up. So this is the kind of the southern part of the building where this is the main entrance here. So you still have art, instrumentation, you've got band, this is now the auditorium and stage. This is auditorium and e-gaming. It's combined. So you have a slope floor on the back, and you have a step floor with an area in front of the stage, and then the stage front and the apron here so that they can do e-gaming on this. Moving here, you still have your gymnasium, seating in the gym, still meeting that requirement that we showed, along with toilets, concessions, and some mechanical space, and then your administration area here. And then on the back side of the gymnasiums, you've got middle school locker rooms, high school locker rooms, and then you've got storage for the gymnasiums. And then our main mechanical electrical entrance is on this end of the building located here. Talk about the academies here in just a second. So this is showing kind of the bulk of the high school academies and the middle school area. So this is your academies down this main north-south corridor. Still the same configuration. You've got academy spaces with classrooms that are double loaded off of either side to take care of these classrooms, these academies here. Then we have some specialized rooms along a couple of these academies here and here. And then you have some science located off of this one corridor, science located here. We move into the middle here. So dining rooms are located here. So you got the high school dining, middle school dining, single kitchen area, still separate serving lines, a separate dishwash area. It's combined on the inside, but it is separate windows on either side. Central cooking area, central receiving, walk-in, cooler, freezer, food prep area, because it's coming in off of the service entrance located right here. This is the middle school entrance. Still the same configuration. You got the administrative office. This is more of a conventional middle school arrangement. You've got cross corridors here, clusters of classrooms with toilets kind of located in the center. You have some special ed spaces that are sprinkled in this space here, as well as you have some on the high school side, and then we have a special education apartment that kind of is a dual purpose for both high school and middle school. Down this wing, you have your science rooms for middle school, your STEM lab, which that's a change from going away from the academies. You gain a STEM lab back. So this is kind of your science cluster. Then you have your band, your art, and a little bit of health adjacent to the P, going down to the P wing here. So then on the low and high bay areas on the north end of the building, so this would be the rear entrance or the north entrance of the building. So you still have CTE space, administration space located here. You do have teacher planning, kind of centrally located off this corridor here. It's adjacent for middle school. It's very accessible for CTE, and it's accessible for the high school functions as well. Then you have your low bay spaces, your cosmetology, your pro-start baking, and your pet grooming areas here. And down this hallway here, coming down this hallway, then you have your what we're calling the high bay spaces. So you have your electrical, construction, your welding, your power equipment, and auto repair in this section here. Each of these are the same configuration of the high school academy. You still have classrooms that are down the middle cores or around the perimeter core that allow you to have your core classes. Has locker room space, toilet space inside of the academies. And then storage space for each of the academies, and then dedicated academy classrooms throughout. I know that's quick, and I'm going to take whatever questions you have, but I'm trying to be very mindful of your time this evening. And then upstairs, as you come up, this is the main entrance lobby. Of course, I touched the screen. The entrepreneurship hub with additional meeting rooms located here. This is actually the auditorium piece. This is the main lobby area, and then we've got a second floor mechanical area in that front section. So, what has it done to us as far? Everybody's asked what it's looked like, how is it different, because we scaled it back. We did not want to lose the integrity of the original design of the building. It was received very well, but we needed to bring it back into budget. So one of the things that we're looking to try to do that is obviously reduce the scale. So the overall entrance still has the same character as what was originally designed. It is now just a lower height scale. We've got the front section. This is your entrepreneurship hub on the top. This is art and instrumental music on the bottom. This is Performing Arts Center. The entrance to the corridor on this end. And then going on the other side, so here's your main entrance on the south side of the building for the high school. This would be the administrative office area, and this kind of leads you into the gymnasium area on the front. And then you can actually see this section here is the gymnasium section. It's actually set further back. And one of the things I point out is we changed materials a little bit. We're using a little bit more brick. We're using some metal panel. A lot of things you're going to see on the gym and some of the high walls. The only exception is the entrances. We're really not installing brick over a lot of low roofs. That's a cost savings measure. We are doing it at the entrances, but where we're getting over the gym, where we're building over top of this low roof out here, we're doing all that in metal panel. We're doing that in other places. The metal panel is a little bit more expensive than the brick. However, the installation is far less expensive because you're not lugging mortar up, you're not lugging scaffolding up. It's a little bit more cost effective to do it that way. So here's the main entrance to the high school. So now we're moving down to this end. This is the gymnasium that you see on the back here. So this would be kind of the side gymnasium. This is that main corridor that runs east-west in front of the gym. There's basically a secondary gym entrance, and then you have one kind of tucked around the corner there. Then this is on the opposite side. This is that same east-west corridor we were just looking at. So here's band. So here's Performing Arts Center entrance. This high section here would be what you're looking at is the auditorium. And then as you come around here, this would be your instrumental music on the lower level, entrepreneurship hub on the upper level, and then moving back here, this is the outside of the high school academies. So here's the band room. So now we're just spinning towards the back. So here's all of the academy entrances located here. And then this would be the corridor that runs down in front of the low bay spaces, which would be the pet grooming, the Pro Start, and then the cosmetology heading down this way. Then you can see here's the back side of the auditorium. There's the back side of the main entrance lobby, and then the back side of the gym. So those have actually started to kind of work together as more of a high roof section. The advantage of what we've done with bringing this roof down is I can actually walk on top of the band room roof and walk on the roof all the way around the back of the building and all the way to the low bay spaces. So we've unified some roof elevations, simplified construction, simplified maintenance, and reduced some of the overall costs with those measures. This is the, what we're calling the rear building entrance or the north building entrance. So here's your high bay shop locations here. This would be the rear entrance of the building. This would be your administration area for the career and technical center portion. This would be the rear entrance, kind of what was going on the side with the academies. This one happens just to be cosmetology, what it looks like heading towards the outside. So middle school. I know in the previous renderings there wasn't a whole lot on the middle school. We have a little bit more to show on the middle school because it's been developed obviously further, especially with the changes doing away with the academies. So this would be the entrance. So if you're looking at the building plan on the site, this is really where 3 o'clock is located on a clock, if you think of the building in that terms. So this is facing east. So here's your entrance to your middle school. There's your administration area. This is actually your STEM and your science room and your STEM lab. So you have a nice little exit coming out, and you've got this green space here. Going back this way, this is still middle school. Classrooms, there's looking at the entrance head on. So you have middle school classrooms here on the left. And then this entrance takes you down in front of the high bay spaces. So this would be your construction, your electrical, your welding is this higher wall section here. You can see a little bit of it. We've kind of taken the brick up on this entrance, but at this point it goes to metal panel because it's a little bit more cost effective as we take it down across the high roof, or over the low roof, I should say. And then here's looking at the entrance. There's the gymnasium, the front of the building is as in this direction. So you can see, and this is kind of where some of our service entrance and service yard is. So we got it screened pretty well of how we were bringing in deliveries and things into the building there. So a little change on the interior, not a whole lot. One of the biggest things is this originally had a really tall volume with clear story windows that ran down the side. Obviously, with bringing the scale down, bringing the cost down, those have gone away. Now we have this is kind of the typical entrance to Academy. So we have a combination of ceiling clouds with some acoustic baffles in here to help control the noise. We've obviously brought the structure height down. We brought the ceiling heights down as well. And brought some of the glass heights down to help continue to reduce costs. But it still has the initial feel and the vibe of the original intent of the design that hasn't been lost here. This is right outside of the dining area. So you see we do have overflow dining that comes into the corridor space. And then you see the ceiling coming out of part of the dining room. And then you're still looking at some of the entrances on the high school academies. So this is middle school. So this would be middle school lobby. So this is the main east-west corridor that runs along the middle school. So this would be the lobby entrance that what I referred to as the site plan here. If it was a clock, you'd be looking right at 3 o'clock. So this is coming in those doors. I've got a little bit of a volume here, but then as you see, we drop it pretty quickly and get back into the right outside of the classroom rooms. So this is leaving the lobby and we're heading back towards the middle of the building. To give you an idea of reference, the dining room is down here on the left, almost where this girl's walking to on the end of the hall there. Toilet cluster located here, water coolers. These are meeting and breakout spaces, part of the middle school. And then lastly, this is kind of down that same corridor. We're just looking right back towards the main entrance for the middle school. And this is one of those meeting rooms there. We got some lighting and we got some acoustic treatment going on in that space, give them a little bit of volume. We've always talked about the middle school design being complementary to the high school design. We've brought it down a little bit in scale. And it's kind of gives you that sense of when you go to the high school, it's kind of a step up in volume, step up in height. It's also a step up in grades and responsibility as well. So project milestones. So this is what was submitted to FEMA. There's a couple items in here that weren't in that original package, so I want to talk through that real quick. Right now we're here in red. This was scheduled to be submitted to you all for approval in December. We're right at the tail end of November, so we are on track and on schedule. Final completion of the ongoing mass grading construction package is scheduled for December. However, there is a pending change order right now that moves that to March 30th. That is the change order I talked about, where we're looking at surcharging the building pad, adding a little bit of soil on it to slope that so that we don't have water ponding on that throughout the winter. Obviously, with the reduced size of the square footage of the building, we do need to get some drainage around the building, so that some additional drainage structures that weren't in the original package. One of the next phases would be submission of site utility and paving package. That would go to your all's approval. Based on your board schedule, possibly the 19th, but I'm thinking with the holidays, we may just push that into January, one of your first meetings in January. There's no advantage to get it approved really quickly because we're not going to want to bid it until after the first of the year anyway. And then construction documents for the school would be submitted to you all and approved for approval in February. We're looking at awarded general construction of a project in May, so we're bidding it in April. Bidding it March and April. Construction would commence in May. And then these were the last of the project milestones. There are specific timeframes that we have to provide, an annual construction update and some specific construction task update to FEMA, and this is the timeframe for that. Final completion, again, this is estimated. We will let the contractor set the schedule just like we did in Cherry River and Richwood project. We'll let them state the number of completion days, but you should be somewhere in the ballpark of that August 2025 date. You know, that was quick. Tried to make it quick, tried to make it clear.
The entire facility is within policy 6200, correct? Except for the two alternates that they're out.
Yeah, the alternates take it outside of the realm of 6200. The rest of the building is, I can definitively say, is within 6200.
Just a question on the footprint right now. I mean, the work that's being done right now is that would put the footprint of the building would be in place by March.
Oh, you mean the building pad?
Building pad.
Yes.
And so, Mike, you will give a report on where we are, and at some point in time, I'm not trying to pressure you.
Actually, we didn't prepare a construction update. We're really just kind of more the same. Things are proceeding well. We've had the extension for time due to the change order. So once that finally runs through the process, M&H is doing all they can with the weather provided. But if I had pictures to show, they would look a lot like the last pictures I showed, even though it's been several months. You don't really visually see a lot of change. Once the center ridge is knocked down behind the job trailers and that whole plane opens up, then you'll be able to really visually see something. And we do plan on having our drone back on site within the next probably 2 weeks to take some really good aerial shots so that we have, again, when we come back after probably around the holidays, around the Christmas holiday, have a really good construction update presentation.
And that ridge behind the trailer, that's really the last.
That's it.
That's really it. I mean, they have got most of the pad situated where it needs to be. Part of the change is with the building originally coming out, way out into this area and way out into this area. This has to be regraded a little bit here and here in the design. They're just doing the mass grading part in the piece right now, so it's not really affecting them. However, we do have to add drainage structures and extend the drainage structures that are going out to these retention ponds that we have on the perimeter of the site. we have to pick that up a little bit closer to the building now because we're a little bit further away. So that's part of the change that you'll see. That change order actually just made it through its way. SBA just signed off on it today. It will be coming to you all for signature. I will tell you this. With it, it is an additive cost to the project. However, we still have allowances into the project with the status of where they currently are, and we still estimate, barring any unforeseen condition that we don't know about, but we've touched so much of the sites that we kind of know where we are. You would still be looking, even with the addition of putting the grade, we're basically crowning this area and sloping it so we're letting water drain off of it during construction, especially during the winter months and before the next contractor gets on site. You're still looking at a net credit of around $300,000. So the bids you received, you're going to complete this project and actually get some money back.
That's good news. Just a couple of things. I just want to ask, where exactly on that map are the retaining walls, and what's the progress on those?
So this is wall one.
Wall one.
You want?
Yeah, wall one is here. Oh, I touched it. Wall one is here. That wall is complete. All but the actual fence installations, the fence posts are installed. I think they may have had a couple of posts to punch through the cap here. Once they complete those posts, they are to be moving to wall 2, which is right here. Okay. That wall is essentially complete. The cap is on. They'll bring the fence posts, they'll punch those in, and again, they'll install the netting as soon as it arrives. And then 3 and we reduced the other one, so that's the last one. That'll be right here. Yeah, right there around what will be future construction for the baseball field.
That wall 2 is not nearly as high as the first one. It's almost just ground.
No, with the expansion of the LOD, pretty much everything reduced. The large walls, and when the building was redone, when ZMM did the redesign on the building, the back wall just completely went away. So all the really high stuff is
We
gone.
originally had a wall coming on the back, and that
It was massive.
Yeah, that was a 44-foot high wall, but once we expanded the LOD, we were able to bring those down, which brought the cost down.
And the repelling area will be right about here. I'm not even touching that. It's being mean to me. Okay. Yeah, the repelling area for the ROTC program will be right around this area. The gates are already already approved to be installed, and then the anchors and the tie-off areas will be in the later package.
So one of the next phases, we talked about a site utility package. What that site utility package, what we're trying to do is, we'll call this the loop road. This is our loop road going around the building. In that next package, we would have all utilities all the way out to 41, all the way coming into the site. We basically are bringing them just inside of the loop road, just inside of the pavement line. We're not wanting to bring them all the way to the building yet because they'll get damaged during construction, especially with crane and hoisting of the steel in this area here. So we just want to get it inside the pavement line. But the other plan is to do base course paving on the asphalt. Because now all of a sudden we have a nice working platform for the contractor. We don't have to worry about unsuitable soil material. I mean, if this were to set in the weather for a period of 2 years while this is being constructed, we're going to have to go back and replace other sections of the soil. It's just going to get so much moisture in it. So this is actually going to reduce our overall cost by paving it early and give the contractor a pretty good work platform to work off of. They will be responsible to they will be responsible to maintain this, and anything they damage, they will repair and replace. And then when the building contractor, because they'll be responsible for doing the top coat.
Just one last question there. Where are the work trailers on there right now? Whereabouts is that?
Right now, you're right about here.
Okay, and the mound is left to be taken out. The last mound is right there.
It's right
It's essentially, yeah, right in the parking area.
Okay, that's.
Yeah.
And that'll be
That's what we
taken
call
out.
Middle Ridge.
Okay, will be taken out by March.
Sooner.
It'll be
Yeah.
sooner.
Oh, yeah,
It'll be
absolutely.
sooner. I would expect
Absolutely.
that the shortages would come off. in the
I'd have to
next-
look at the schedule, but it's actually, had we not done some other moving around, it probably would have already been gone.
That was, is part of that ridge the topsoil, or are you just right behind the trailers?
No, the large mounds you see on site now are just topsoil piles.
Yeah.
The highest elevation on the property right now are big piles of topsoil.
Yeah.
There's no massive amounts of earth to be moved. Those are large topsoil piles.
The biggest section is the little
Yeah.
ridge right behind the trailer.
Yeah.
Did you say the core or academic classes are going to be within the academies?
For the high school, yes. Your English, language arts, your math, your history, those are all accessible off of the academies.
You said before that Lake Creek would be reduced to 325,000 square feet. Is that still?
We're at 324,716 right now.
Still?
Yes.
At 431, is that still the square foot price? Is that what it's running now?
431 is a price that was based on the bids that were received on the first bids at Cherry River Richwood. We don't believe it to be quite there, but we do know the costs have flatlined, and I'll let Skansky talk about that a little bit more, but they have not dipped as much as we would like to see them dip yet. They quit climbing. Most of them have quit climbing, but it is not dropped back down yet.
No. No, that's it. Chris put it perfectly. We've seen a flat line, but we have not seen a substantial decrease in square foot numbers. And there's an economy, Dave has said this several times, there's an economy of scales to be gained with building this size.
And the cost per square foot of this building versus the Cherry River Richwood School, they're an apple, and they're not even an apple and an orange because they're both round, it's an apple and a banana. You've got a location factor that's a little different, being located where this is in Summersville off of 19 versus in Richwood. This is mostly steel frame construction. You do have some masonry construction. You have brick veneer, but the frame will go up pretty fast. This is also not phase construction, and they're also not working around students. So there's a cost difference per square foot. So is certain steel frame construction a little bit more expensive than block? Yes. When you get to start to lay block, there's not a lot of masons that can lay this much block. So going to steel frame drywall construction makes it a little bit more affordable. So it's not an apple and an orange, it's kind of an apple and banana. It's not an equal comparison.
Show me where the high school is going to be in there. It looks to me like a big CTE center with some high school inserted in.
So everything in blue is high school. It's basically a comprehensive high school. You have your CTE is injected into your high school curriculum.
Where are the academies?
So
all through there.
So the auditorium's an academy, you got band room, this is academy, this, these spaces here, and these spaces here. They're academies.
Where's the academic high school? I don't see it.
I mean, you got classroom strips all the way through here around every basic academy of all of the program. There is educational space for the student population.
And this is to the absolute minimum 6,200 standards, absolute minimum.
One of those areas, like if 6,200, what we say when, if we talk about areas being below 6,200, we talk about 6,200 will give you a range sometimes for like a conference room. anywhere from 150 to 225 square feet. If you want to build the largest conference room possible, you might not need that for that particular area. You might only need 200 square feet instead of 225. So when we say below, some of those areas are just below that, in the middle of that range that 6,200 will give you. For instance, a classroom could be anywhere from 700 to 750 square feet. Depends on how much square footage you want to save on your building, and then also tailored toward the classroom that you're teaching. So that's, when we talk about if it's under 6,200, it's in that range, the low end of that range.
Yeah, so to make that base point here, so if I'm looking at these classrooms throughout here, there's English language arts, math, history, there's the academy classroom, there's an academy space itself. We range anywhere from 720 to around 730 in the classroom, so we're within that. So I'm less than 750, but I'm over the 700. So if I go to the allowable at 750, I'm under. That's what I mean by that, is that there are some spaces that you're under. When you go to these academy spaces, these are treated as basically an instructional lab space. You get so many square foot per student. That's how those are calculated.
How many academies are there?
Because
I think you said 11.
12.
I think you said 11.
There's 11 there,
11 and
this
then
one becomes 12.
12, yeah, total.
Yeah, because that one's combined.
And right now you have 14? Okay.
With the whole purpose, for example, in the, let's take Health Occupations Academy. In that academy, which would be focusing on medicines and nursing and that type of thing, in that academy, you have the central area, which would be a model hospital, a model doctor's office, where they get hands-on practical experience in that academy space, that larger area. But around that, you have your math, science, English, social studies, and I think that's the 4 subjects, that are all teaching their subjects relative to that academy, to make the academy experience relevant back to math. That's what we haven't really been doing in previous times. We've just been teaching math or science or English social studies. We're making this relevant to that curricular area or that academy area. Again, this is the concept we have talked about for a long time. Our goal is to send our kids out of our school, here, these schools, with that are certified, credentialed, or licensed to do something in life. And so we haven't been doing that in the past, and we've been sending a lot of kids out of our schools unprepared. We're trying to meet that need through this new academy approach, and we visited some other areas that really are addressing these areas, but I think we're really on the cutting edge of this, not only in West Virginia, but in the country, to be honest with you. So it's a different approach. It requires change. Some people don't like change, but change is necessary. Particularly when we want our kids to stay here, we want them to prepare for work and getting them out into the world or going on to college. So that's the whole academy approach. So.
The academies, if you look at them very closely, they're very similar in layout. And the reason for that is they're designed to be flexible. So this is your ability to set up vignettes for workforce training. It's also the ability to simulate the workforce. You can actually simulate certain aspects of for instance, they've got a tourism classroom area here. You've got hospitality management. You've got the public safety. So we are using these spaces to be able to simulate the workforce out of it. But what's important to take away from this is these are set up to be flexible spaces, and they can be changed as the demands of the workforce require them to be changed. So you're not locked into a lab. It's not like a science lab of old where that's your layout, and that's the layout for the next 60 years. These spaces are not that way, because it's relying on most of the equipment most of the furnishings and be able to change layout very quickly.
Some people don't like change, but some people don't like change that they perceive to be worse. So I think we have to give people credit.
I don't see where that's worse. I think that's looking at the future and trying to say, again, we're trying to get our kids out of here prepared to go to work or prepared to go on further to higher learning and getting them, again, either certified, credentialed, or licensed in some area when they walk out the door.
But if you don't have the staff behind you, there won't be any success. And the people I talk to at the high school don't want it. The people I talk to at the VOTEC don't want it. The public has shown through the last 2 elections that they don't want it.
Well,
and that's my opinion, and I'll take $1 for it.
Well, I'm sorry, that's sad because you want to keep doing things the same way you've been doing them and expect different results. That's the definition of insanity. I'm saying there has to be change or we don't make progress. And, I understand if I've been doing something for 30 years this way, I want to continue to the day that I retire. But I'll tell you this, the field of medicine changes frequently. The field of engineering changes frequently because of the demands of the time. And that's where we are in education.
Well, at this point, there's no use to discuss that because, we're here, so we got to move on. I understand what you're saying. But we're bound by the agreement that the state gave us.
But what if this comes in at $30 million over budget?
It's probably going to be more than that. We'll have to deal with it when it does.
Yeah, I think that at this point, it would probably be good to have an executive session to discuss this plan as well as the Cherry River project, because I think that we're going to be getting into some dollar amounts and discussions that probably this board needs to understand before entering into any votes.
Okay, do we have a motion to go into executive session?
Mr. President, I make a motion that we go into executive session according to State Code 6-9A-4B9 in order to discuss the construction and the costs of this facility.
A little bit more money back. Typically, we'll get more on a Bluebird, but we'll get twice as much as we will on a regular international or Thomas for us.
We don't have any Bluebirds now, do we?
We don't have any Bluebirds now, and I'll be honest. When I first came in, I had a lot of our drivers and a lot of people ask, "Are you interested in? Are you thinking about getting Bluebird?" And I talked to mechanics, and at first they said, "No, we already have 2 different types of buses. It would be tough to work on to have 3 different types of buses in here, as far as parts and things like that go." After the mechanics went over and looked at the buses and got a look at them, they were sold. It's a lot less maintenance on those, a lot less parts, and like I said, talking to the other counties, they said they would not go back. I think Fayette County said they're 40% of their fleet is already Bluebird gas, and they said they didn't give me a dollar amount, but they said it has saved them a ton of expenses.
Fuel mileage kind of compare?
7 to 9 is what they get, so pretty fair comparison, and it's cheaper.
Yeah, gas is a lot cheaper than diesel.
But I think it would be, so.
You guys have this push for electric buses, and we've had that discussion. We're not really sure that those are really going to work in Nicholas County. They're just a lot of hills to climb here. So looking forward into green fleet, that may not be the complete answer for Nicholas County.
Well, that one was propane optional. Propane burns clean if you burn that. I don't know what
A lot of other counties, and I don't know a lot about the propane ones. Everyone I've talked to has kind of steered us away from that.
Well, I think there's some little adjustments you make to that engine to burn propane, orifice or something. But anyway, I think, yeah, it would be, I don't think electric would work here.
Temperatures with draining batteries.
The electric, I think you're looking at almost $400,000 a bus. And then what I was quoted on was for a charging station to charge 2 buses, $32,000. To charge 2 buses.
Yeah, it concerns me. Cold, icy morning, you gotta warm the thing up. What are you gonna warm it up with?
Well, they recommend the buses. They recommend some of the buses, the electric be kept in
inside or something.
Like in a
heated garage,
temperature controlled environment.
So is this bus $130,230? Is that what we're looking at?
Yeah, and actually what we'll probably do is, I think I can get, we're not going to do the disc brakes on it. We'll go to the drums, and that'll save us $3,000 on that.
Okay.
But does he need something? It's on that. On the Bluebird thing.
So the next item is item 6, discussion regarding the future purchase of an excavator.
I think we decided to table that, maybe for another time, when I can gather more information.
Okay.
If that's okay with you all.
Surplus property.
Surplus property, we just have one item, which is a folder that we had to replace, and so we just want to have it declared surplus so that we can move it through our auction. It's well, we folded all the paychecks and cash. Yeah. We had that one for nearly 20 years, and our vendor was shopping on eBay for used parts in order to fix it when it was breaking. So we finally decided that we would buy a new one. Yeah. So we got a new one, so we do need to dispose of the old one.
Okay. Item B, out-of-state travel request.
It's for Christy Chapman to travel to Louisville, Kentucky on February the 28th through March the 3rd for the Exceptional Children Conference.
Probably paid for out of Title I.
Federal funds, probably.
Most likely federal funds.
Okay. So, I have a motion to accept consent items under finance, payment of current invoices, supplements and transfers, one contract with Shannon Anderson for Cherry River Elementary, the treasurer's report, under bids, we're going to table Richwood fence. We'll explain. We're going to table that. We're going to transportation truck under bids. A, school bus. C, Bluebird bus sales. We're going to table the discussion regarding the future purchase of the excavator and surplus property. Any Questions?
Okay, everything but 5B and 6, correct? Everything but 5B and 6.
Well, 3B and 3C are scratched.
Yeah, right.
Okay?
Uh-huh.
And 5B and 5 and 6, right?
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Maleta, did you get all that? Okay. So we have a motion by Dr. Penix, second by Mr. Moose. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. Personnel.
Yes,
Chris, we can turn this stuff off. Yeah. Okay. Alan, you heard the fence bid is tabled, right? You heard the fence bid is tabled, right?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Can't you just email?
But work for the Open Meetings Act, yes? Yes,
You're working hard.
No.
Hey, Don, there's some of those.
Hold now on me out there on me. Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
They're holding now on us, Dr. Penix. They got
Yeah,
the
There's some of those
I have it.
Rice Krispies bars in the bottom.
This is good too. Does anyone want some?
Hurry up.
nice chocolate bar.
Thank you, got another executive session.
Is it just about the one I?
This is back to the old days.
I told Alan, I said, this used to be our normals, baby.
When we did it once a week, we had it once a week, sometimes twice a week.
Yeah,
No, we haven't.
we still got a ways to go to do that.
Okay.
Thank you for sharing.
Personnel.
Yeah, we do need an executive session. Mr. Willie is not here, so.
It's why.
After you go through the personnel or after? Whichever you want to do, we can go through this. I don't need one for this. So you have before you the updated personnel agenda. The changes are in red. I've made a copy available to the press. I will read the changes. Under professional personnel, I took off the substitute teacher. I do have applicants. I just, with the holidays, just didn't have time to get those folks properly vetted, so I will have recommendations for that potentially on the 19th. Under service, Joanna Rose, employee in the position of Cook 1 at Golly River Elementary School, effective November 29th, 2022. Tammy Kaufman, employee in the position of halftime Cook 1 at Somerville Elementary School, effective at the close of her long-term substitute position, which will be right or about the time of the next board meeting. So we took off on page 2, we took off the early education classroom teaching assistant for Cherry River. We do have applicants, but they're not in the system, and they have to take the ACE test, and that will be given this week. So hopefully we'll have a recommendation for that position also on the 19th. Under consent items, I did make one edit to permission to post and hire one full-time teacher, Title I teacher at Zila Elementary School to be paid for with federal funds. We actually had 2.5 positions between, I think it's 2.5 positions between Somerville Elementary and Zila Elementary, and we've had some vacancies and some transfers, so they kind of reconfigured that a little bit. And so this will actually be a reduction of a half a position, even though we're adding a full-time position at Zila, and that'll be paid for with Title I funds. And then we added for approval, the additional volunteers of Rachel Marsh, Shadrae Crislip, Kinley Bailey, Robert Crislip, Aaron Evans, Anthony Russell, and Lori Keenan. And we also do have leave requests on page 3. So, yeah.
I think total has to, so.
We can separate that.
Yeah, separate.
Right, and I do have the updated vacancy list there. I'll be posting jobs tomorrow. After tonight, we'll currently have 8 vacant classroom positions. We still have a counselor position that I'll be reposting. And then when you look at for where we're going to be at the start of the school year next year, so far we're at 14 there.
Any questions? Okay, so we have a motion to accept the personnel agenda with the exception of, I don't want to read that name.
We just say leave requests. He can abstain from all the leave requests.
On that first page, you have 2 people listed, and then it says employee in the position of restricted substitute teacher.
Uh-huh.
Both of them?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so any other questions? Okay, do we have a motion to accept the personnel agenda excluding the leave request?
So moved.
Dr. Penix makes a motion, seconded by Mr. Green. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. So do we, is there any need for discussion on the leave request? Okay. So if there's no discussion, do we have a motion on the leave request?
Mr. President, I so move. We accept the leave request.
Dr. Penix makes a motion to accept the leave request, seconded by Mr. Moose. All in favor? Aye. And Mr. Green, okay. All right. Executive session.
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Berry made the motion, seconded by Mr. Green. All in favor? Aye. At 11:52.
Whoa.
10:52.
I was going to say I lost an hour somewhere.
10:52, excuse me.
Feels like 11:50.
There were no decisions made during the executive session. Okay. Item C.
Yeah, I'm just asking you to ratify the paid suspension of Anthony Wiley for an indefinite period pending the outcome of an investigation.
Okay. Do we have a motion to ratify paid suspension for indefinite period of time for Anthony Wiley?
We'll make the motion.
Mr. Berry makes a motion. Seconded by Mr. Moose. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Did you get them? All right, superintendent's information. She has given us her construction planning architectural update. Yes. Okay. Item 9, reports. SESC, Dr. Penix.
We did meet last Wednesday, a week ago. A lot of discussion and presentation in regard to credit recovery through temporary, what's the name of that? Anyway.
Me too.
The credit recovery program, what is it?
Proximity.
Proximity.
Yes.
I was going to say prodigy, but it's
It's
proximity.
proximity, yeah.
Proximity. And what that can do for trying to get kids graduated. And so encouragement that other counties would be involved, it becomes cheaper, and you can use teachers across counties in one lump sum as opposed to each county trying to negotiate.
Okay, item 9B, Bright Horizons, Mr. Green.
I wasn't at the last meeting, but been sending me the emails, and the staff is doing an excellent job there. But hopefully this month, coming up, I'll get to that meeting, so.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any delegations?
No, sir.
Items for future agendas, anybody?
How about if we hear from Kevin about the possibility of that alternate for the gymnasium with county funds? Can we discuss that?
I'm exploring all options. So that's why I was hoping tonight that it would give us a little bit of time to buy the time until December 15th, and the contractor said he would wait until the first of the year. So I'm not finished exploring all opportunities.
We'll have something on it next time then.
Well, we'll have to
I will probably, I mean, it will have to be the case of a special meeting, because our next meeting, well, no, it wouldn't, be December 19th, so it would be December 19th. So by December 19th, I will have explored all
possible options.
All possible options. And so,
okay. Any other items for future agenda on the December 19th?
Oh, we were considering that law firm from Lewisburg to come and speak.
So you'd like to hear from, what was that law group's name?
I'll get it to you. I can't think right now.
What would they want to speak about?
Just present their services to.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's just not an action item, but a presentation, right?
Yeah.
I can't think of the name. We've used them.
Oh, yeah, we have.
We've used them before.
Jason Long, I think was something.
Yeah, Jason Long.
It's attorney for him.
Mhm.
Dinsmore?
Dinsmore.
Dinsmore Law Firm. So one of us need to contact them if they want to do a presentation, correct? Or-
Yeah, I mean, I can call and ask them if they're wanting to. Did they indicate that they wanted to come? I mean,
Actually,
either one of us.
that's if we're going to use their services. I guess anybody can contact them to come do a presentation, correct? Do you want one of us, Mr. Moose?
It doesn't matter. I can. Whatever you prefer.
It doesn't matter to me. If you want to tell them they'll be on the board agenda for a presentation. Okay. All right. Future meeting dates. Regular meeting Monday, December 19th at the Nicholas County Board of Education office. Start time 6 o'clock. Regular meeting Tuesday, January 3rd. Start time 6 o'clock, and that's at the board office as well. And then the next Tuesday would be January 10th, LSIC meeting at Summersville Middle School, Golly River, Glade Creek, Summersville Middle, Nicholas County High School, and the Career and Technical Center, starting at 5 o'clock. And then regular meeting Tuesday, January 17th, 2023, at the board office at 6 o'clock. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Before we move, I want to thank the Delta Kappa Gamma Society new chapter for providing us with a chocolate bar tonight.
Chocolate bar.
That's my son.
Yes. Yeah.
How'd you get two?
Oh, buddy.
I'm on a little bit of a diet there.
Move to adjourn.
All stuff, look at all the candy he brings up.
Yes, sir.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Dr. Penix makes a motion to adjourn.
I say.
Second by Mr. Berry. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.